when we consider how central the theme of Emunah in the coming of Mashiach is, the question is raised. The ikrim of Emunah, the fundamentals of belief in Yiddishkeit, are things that without them, it's impossible to live as a Yid who is Shomer Torah Mitzvos, a Yid who keeps Torah and Mitzvos. And if so, why is the coming of Mashiach so central and so fundamental to living as a Fromm Yid day by day? Especially that the coming of Mashiach are prophecies about the future, and the future is not negea to now. It doesn't apply to a person's life, to a Yid's life, and living as a Fromm Yid day by day right now. It's something that we have to believe about in the future, and we do believe them, but why does it make a difference to a person's day-to-day life while they're still in Galus, in exile? Especially considering that in recent generations, in recent years, in recent decades, it has become much easier to live the life of a Fromm Yid. Much more than in past generations when Yidden were persecuted, as is known from the history. So then why is it so important now, and it's so central to believe in the coming of Mashiach, when now, comparatively, fulfilling Torah and Mitzvos and living as a Fromm Yid has become easier? And the answer to this question lies in the words of the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, the beginning of Perek Yud Aleph, the 11th chapter. And he says as follows: HaMelech HaMoshiach osid lamoid ulahachzir malchus David liyoishnol lememshala harishayna. Melech HaMoshiach is going to bring back the reign and the kingship of David to its original rulership. Uboyne HaMikdash u'mekabith nitchei Yisrael. He's going to build the Beis HaMikdash. He will gather all the Yidden back. And v'choyzerin kol hamishpatim biyamav kishahoyu. All of the halachis and all of the mitzvahs are going to come back, will come back kishahoyu, like they were at an earlier time in history when there was a shleimus in Torah and Mitzvos. And what's interesting over here is that the Rambam doesn't discuss the changes in the world that will happen when Mashiach comes. And in the beginning, the Rambam doesn't talk about the wondrous things that are going to happen when Mashiach comes. He gets to it eventually. But over here in the beginning, he only speaks about the shleimus of Torah that will happen when Mashiach comes. And when a Yid thinks about this, he realizes that now during Galus, there are so many mitzvahs that we are not able to fulfill. And as a Fromm Yid, the Yid who wants to do the mitzvahs of Hashem, and he realizes that while he's in Galus, it's impossible for him to do a big majority of the mitzvahs. And like the Chafetz Chaim says in his Sefer HaMitzvahs HaKotzer, that only 77 mitzvahs aseh out of the Ramach, out of the 248, could be fulfilled these days. And only 194 mitzvahs leis aseh could be fulfilled these days during the time of Galus. And what do we see? That less than half of the mitzvahs could be fulfilled during the time of Galus, and until Mashiach comes, we can't do all the other ones. All the mitzvahs that connect to Melech, King, and Sanhedrin, and Beis HaMikdash, and Karbonis, Shemitah, Yovel, etc., etc. All these mitzvahs could not be fulfilled with all their details while we're in Galus until Mashiach comes. So a Yid who wants to live a life of Torah and Mitzvahs realizes that until Mashiach comes, he could not live a life of Torah and Mitzvahs. So every single day, this relates to his day-to-day life. That today, unless Mashiach comes, I will not have a shleimus in Torah and Mitzvahs. That's what a Yid should tell himself. And therefore he yearns for the coming of Mashiach tremendously. Additionally, we know that one of the proofs that the Rambam brings that Mashiach is going to come, which is the reason why we have to have a munah in the coming of Mashiach, is from what it says in the Torah. That it says in Parshas Shoftim that V'im yarchev Hashem alekeches gevulcha, if and when, meaning when Hashem will broaden your boundaries, the Torah gives us a mitzvah that we should add another 3 cities of refuge. We should add another 3 arei miklat. And the Rambam says that this was not fulfilled yet, and this is going to happen only when Mashiach comes, that the borders of Eretz Yisrael will be broadened, will be made bigger, and then there will be another 3 arei miklat. There will be altogether 9 arei miklat. So therefore, Being that it never happened, we have to believe in the coming of Mashiach. But what we see from here is that not only will the Rambam bring a shleimus in mitzvahs, but even more so. The Rambam will actually add, it's not really adding because the Torah says he's supposed to do it, but he's going to bring a bigger shleimus in Torah mitzvahs than we ever had in history. And this adds to the yearning for the coming of Mashiach. Because a Yid who wants to do all the mitzvahs and knows that there's going to be a mitzvah that was never done yet, that's only going to start, that's only going to be mekuyam, it's only going to be fulfilled when Mashiach comes. So a Yid really, really yearns for the coming of Mashiach just for this reason. And then the Rambam goes on to enumerate many amazing things that will happen when Mashiach comes. But the point of all that is, in order that we should be, like the Rambam says, we should be pnuyim b'toyra v'chachmasa, we should have no distractions, and everything should be available to us, that this way we should be able to devote ourselves to learning Torah and to doing mitzvahs in the greatest possible manner with the strongest attention. And therefore, as long as this has not yet happened, it takes up a very central place in our day-to-day life. This fundamental of Emunah on the coming of Mashiach, that we want Mashiach to come in order, that Chayzir and Kol HaMishpatim, B'yamav Kishahayu, that all the mitzvahs should go back to their shleimus, and for that every Yid yearns for the coming of Mashiach very, very speedily.